I'd been watching the handsome, rough-looking guy at the construction site across from my cafe for a long time now. He showed up about a week ago. His name is Jordan Wilson. The older workers there seemed to think he was young and easy to bully. They deliberately ignored him, refused to talk to him, wouldn't assign him any work to earn money, just sidelined him in every possible way. Jordan Wilson never looked to be in a good mood. I tried to hold myself back, but in the end, I couldn't. On the 8th day after Jordan Wilson arrived at the site, I finally mustered up the courage and walked out of my cafe. Pushing through the roar of machinery, clouds of dust, and the curious stares of the other workers, I made my way to Jordan Wilson, who was leaning against a corner, lost in thought. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, his sharp profile striking. Pure, overwhelming masculinity. My face burned red, my ears hot. I hesitated, unsure how to begin. He snapped back to attention when he noticed me. He paused for a moment, then frowned, sounding annoyed. "Hey, walking onto a construction site without a helmet? Are you trying to get yourself killed?" A cigarette hung from the corner of his mouth, his words slightly muffled. Before I could respond, he took the safety helmet off his own head and plopped it onto mine. I panicked and hurriedly adjusted it. "Hi, I'm looking for you. I have something to talk to you about." "Looking for me?" I nodded. Under his cool, indifferent gaze, I spoke carefully, almost trembling. Can I keep you?" Jordan Wilson froze. "What did you say?" I swallowed hard, my eyes darting everywhere except his face. "I want to keep you. My name is Dylan. I run a cafe right across the street. I'm not a bad person. I promise I'll treat you well. I would never insult you. And I'll give you money every month. 20,000. That way you won't have to suffer here anymore, or let those older workers bully you. Is that okay?" Jordan Wilson didn't respond right away. He only exhaled slowly, smoke curling into the air. Through the haze, I keenly felt his gaze traveling over me, unabashed and deliberate, across my face, down my neck. Just when I thought I'd definitely be rejected, he raised an eyebrow. "Sure." When the cafe closed for the night, Jordan Wilson had just gotten off work as well. He stood behind me as I locked up, then followed me to a nearby hotel. I have social anxiety. Severe social anxiety. For a moment, I had no idea what to say to this tall, broad-shouldered kept man beside me, so I could only keep my head down and walk. The more I walked, the more awkward I felt. The more awkward I felt, the worse I walked. Panicking, fumbling, an endless vicious cycle. Jordan Wilson didn't seem to notice my strange, stiff gait at all. When we passed a convenience store, he suddenly asked lazily, "Aren't you going to buy some tools for the crime, sugar daddy?" My ears instantly burned. Hotels usually provide those by the bed, right?" "What if the size isn't right?" "Then could you buy them? I'll transfer you the money." By then, my voice was barely louder than a mosquito's buzz. Jordan Wilson didn't move. Instead, he looked at me with a faintly malicious glint in his eyes. "Isn't it more fun to buy that kind of thing together?" My face felt like it was about to burst into flames. I waved my hands in a panic. "No, it's fine. I'll wait for you up ahead." Before he could say anything else, I lowered my head and hurried off, walking stiffly with both hands and feet out of sync. Behind me, I heard his quiet, amused scoff. Thankfully, I didn't have to wait long before he caught up, a small bag swinging from his hand. We entered the hotel, checked in, and went upstairs. This was the most rebellious thing I'd ever done in my life. What was going to happen tonight didn't need to be said out loud. My heart was pounding like a trapped rabbit. I had considered taking him home, but my apartment had terrible soundproofing. If the neighbors heard anything, I'd socially die on the spot. A hotel was safer, and more suitable for the kind of relationship we had. I kept telling myself to stay calm, but when I swiped the keycard to open the door, my hands were shaking so badly I couldn't get it to work. Then a tall, solid body pressed in close behind me. Jordan Wilson reached around me, enclosing my hands in his, and guided the card to the reader again. Beep. The door unlocked. He leaned close to my ear and said, "You're the one paying. What are you so nervous for?" Jordan's body was impressive. 8-pack abs, a narrow, powerful waist. His muscles were well-defined but not excessive. Just standing there, he radiated an overwhelming sense of sexual tension. Even the most emotionally indifferent women would unconsciously look his way. Instantly convinced. That was the conclusion I'd reached after secretly observing him from my cafe for an entire week. I just hadn't expected it to be this good. When he pressed close to me, my entire spine nearly melted. After Jordan gently pushed me into the room, my mind went completely blank. He told me to do something. I did it. Take a shower. Lie down. Behave. I was obedient to an embarrassing degree. After Jordan finished showering, he stood by the bed and suddenly reached out, poking my cheek. Not hard, not gentle either. "Dylan," he said, "I'll ask you one last time. Are you sure you want to keep me?" "Wait, do you actually know what keeping someone means?" Slowly, I pulled out my phone and transferred 20,000 to him on the spot. My voice trembled slightly. "I know, and I'm sure." Jordan stared at me expressionlessly for a few seconds, then reached out and picked up the convenience store bag. He rummaged through it and pulled out a pile of snacks. No adult items, not even one. What about the mood? Just as I was about to ask in a panic, something was suddenly shoved into my mouth, a strawberry-flavored lollipop. Sweet to the point of being cloying. Jordan clicked his tongue, sounding annoyed. "You don't know anything," he said. "Tonight, we're just eating snacks and watching a movie." Jordan lay down beside me and actually started browsing paid movies on the TV. This unexpectedly wholesome turn of events left me a little disappointed. I sucked on my lollipop and stared at him with wide, hopeful eyes. "Jordan, you're already being kept by me. You've taken the money. You can't back out now." The remote clicked loudly in his hand. "I never said I was backing out." Confused, I asked quietly, "Then why won't you, that with me?" "Too fast," he replied. "I don't want to scare you." "I'm not scared." Jordan shot me a mocking glance. "Then why have you been shaking all night? You won't even lift your head. You look scared out of your mind, like a rabbit." Being seen through so easily made me painfully awkward. "That's not really true." "Oh. Then why do I feel like you're terrified of making eye contact? Is this what people online call social anxiety?" "Yeah." "So you really do have social anxiety. Then how do you even run a cafe?" "Customers order online. I make the drinks behind the counter, and they pick them up themselves. If I can avoid talking, I do." "And what if a customer insists on coming closer to talk to you?" he said, leaning in on purpose. Like this. As he moved closer, teasing me. We naturally ended up looking straight into each other's eyes. The room went silent. I licked the lollipop, instinctively wanting to look away to escape the awkwardness. Then Jordan's Adam's apple shifted slightly. "Hey," he said quietly. "That thing's a no, but other stuff is fine. Want to try first?" I noticed his gaze lingering on my mouth. Summoning all my courage, I tilted my chin up toward him. "Yes!" Then the lollipop was suddenly pulled from my mouth. The candy knocked lightly against my teeth. I was just about to let out a small yelp when a shadow fell over my face. The sound never made it out. At first, Jordan's kissing was unexpectedly inexperienced. Of course, I didn't notice, because I was even worse. But very quickly, Jordan caught on. One hand came up to cradle the back of my head as our lips brushed and lingered. We'd both used the hotel's body wash. The scent on our skin was exactly the same. Warmed by his higher body temperature, it made my head spin. When the lollipop was pushed back into my mouth, I was still a little dazed. Jordan didn't disturb me. He casually wiped away the moisture at the corner of my lips with his thumb, then went back to searching for a movie. After I finally came back to my senses, I gently tugged on the hem of his shirt. "Jordan, I want to kiss again." The man who'd been barely holding it together instantly cracked. He muttered a curse, tossed the remote aside, and turned back to me. His gaze burned, like it was laced with fire. So that night, we never ended up watching a movie. And as for my lollipop, I had no idea whether it ended up in the trash or forgotten in some corner. No one paid it any attention. All I remembered was Jordan wiping my lips again at the end, his voice hoarse as he muttered, "Strawberry really is sweet." Even though we ended up just lying under the blanket talking, I was still deeply satisfied, and shy about it. Later, sitting in my cafe, I touched my slightly swollen lips and looked happily toward the construction site across the street. Dust filled the air. I couldn't see Jordan anywhere. I didn't mind. I was busy imagining the way his arm muscles bulged when he worked. Suddenly, my phone, usually kept on silent, lit up with an incoming call. The moment I saw the caller ID, my mood dropped. I stared at the screen anxiously until the other person lost patience and hung up. I didn't know how much time passed. Tap. Tap. Someone casually knocked on the cafe's glass window. I looked up and locked eyes with my rough, handsome-kept man. Jordan was covered in dust, speckled with cement. After being out in the sun all day, heat practically radiated off him, so he didn't come inside. He stood outside the glass and asked me instead, "What's wrong? You look unhappy. Was my service last night not good enough?" I shook my head. No. But the moment he mentioned last night, my thoughts stirred. I hesitated, then asked awkwardly, "Are we still going to be together tonight?" He glanced at me and asked deliberately, "Together doing what?" Even though I was the only one in the cafe, my voice dropped lower and lower. "Going out, staying over somewhere." "Nope. Can't. I'm busy tonight. There's real work at the site. I can't leave." Thinking about him working overtime, carrying steel bars and hauling cement, I considered myself a considerate, gentle sponsor. Of course I wouldn't push him. "Okay, then go do your work." I pressed my lips together, disappointed. The lips he'd kissed, swollen last night, were still vividly red, like overripe berries soaked in juice. When I pressed them together, the color deepened even more. Jordan stared at me. Suddenly, his Adam's apple rolled. "Come out here for a second." "Huh? Oh, okay." Thinking he just didn't like talking through the glass, I obediently got up and walked outside to him. "What is it?" He didn't say anything. Amid the rumbling of the construction site nearby and the brainwashing jingle from the shop next door, he suddenly bent down and kissed my cheek. Then my lips. Only his mouth touched me. Not a single speck of dust transferred over. "No matter how busy I am," he said quietly, "I can still spare a moment to satisfy my sponsor." My heart skipped several beats, completely out of control. After Jordan went back to the construction site, I drifted back into my cafe in a daze. I was happy. Ridiculously so. In the first 24 years of my orderly, uneventful life, this was the first time I'd tried to break out of my routine and keep someone. I hadn't expected to end up with someone this good. Jordan wasn't just handsome. He respected me. Sure, he was poor enough to be hauling bricks at a construction site, but that was fine. I could tighten my belt a little and sell a few more cups of coffee to support him. Unfortunately, over the next few days, Jordan stayed extremely busy. Every time I asked him to spend the night with me, he didn't have time. At best, he could occasionally squeeze in a quick kiss with me at the cafe entrance. He even told me the construction site was dangerous and warned me not to go looking for him there. He'd come find me after work. Honestly, with the way things were going, anyone who didn't know better might think I was the kept one, waiting eagerly every day for my sponsor to show up. After this happened a few times, even someone as soft-tempered as me started to feel a little annoyed. I'd already given him the $20,000. 2 whole weeks, and all we'd done was kiss. That felt like a pretty bad deal. So one day, when Jordan came into my cafe again, I summoned what I believed to be my fiercest tone and accused him of being unprofessional. "I think your attitude is really not okay," I said. "You took the money, but aren't doing your job." Jordan wasn't dirty that day, so he came straight behind the counter, taking advantage of the lack of customers to casually peck at my face again and again. He really seemed to like kissing me, especially my cheeks. One kiss would leave 2 faint marks that quickly faded, but he never got tired of it. Hearing my complaint, he replied in a lazy, roguish tone, "What are you mumbling about like a mosquito? Speak up." I raised my voice, trying to sound firm and righteous. "Jordan, I think we need to have a proper talk." "About what?" "Well, since you've already taken the money, but you haven't done what a kept man is supposed to do, I think your pay should be docked." Jordan raised an eyebrow. He leaned in closer, clearly examining me. "Dylan, who said you were timid? You look pretty bold to me right now." "Oh, by the way, I suddenly have a question," he added. "Why did you want to keep me in the first place?" This was exactly the kind of situation social anxiety hated most, being stared at and teased. I avoided his gaze and said awkwardly, "I thought you were good-looking. Your body's nice, too. You're my type. And you give me a sense of security. Like I can finally have something that belongs to me." That last sentence came out very softly, almost swallowed by my voice. He probably didn't hear it. "So basically," he said lazily, "you're just craving me, right?" Yeah. I didn't deny it. My face felt unbearably hot. I really was craving him. "So, are you free tonight to do that together?" "That," I hurried to add. "Not just kissing." Jordan lowered his head and lightly bit my flushed cheek. "That?" he said. "That costs extra." "No problem." I nodded quickly, agreeing without hesitation. Jordan let out a low chuckle. "All right. I'll be done with work tonight, so—" Unluckily, just then, a customer walked in. Jordan didn't finish his sentence. He let go of me and left behind a deliberately ambiguous remark. "So tonight," he said, "I won't be treating you to snacks. We'll be having something else instead." That night, Jordan and I walked to the same hotel again, one after the other. This time, the convenience store bag he was carrying definitely didn't contain snacks. It held actual tools for the crime. Jordan had dragged me into the convenience store and bought them himself. Extra large, ultra thin. Those very much not family-friendly words, along with Jordan deliberately lowering his voice to tease me, hit my brain all at once. I froze for a second, then immediately darted off to the side. I pulled out my phone and opened several apps over and over, pretending to be busy. Right. As long as I didn't make eye contact, no one could see me. I wasn't buying anything. I was just passing by. I kept chanting this to myself. And yet I still felt like the cashier, and maybe even the other customers, were secretly watching me, including passersby, including the hotel front desk. It wasn't until we finally entered the room that I let out a breath of relief. "Jordan, I'll go take a shower first." "Wait," he said. "No rush." I turned back to look at him, confused. "Is there something else?" "Of course there is." The man casually lifted his hand and pulled off his shirt, smooth, lean muscle lines. Hair slightly mussed from static clinging to the fabric. A full-on visual assault of top-tier male beauty. The last time we stayed over, he'd only kissed me. He hadn't taken his clothes off. I'd only dared to sneak glances. So this sudden move felt like an unexpected bonus. My eyes were completely glued to him. Jordan stared at me, his gaze deep. "How can I let my sponsor shower alone?" he said. "Want me to give you a considerate, full-service wash? What would happen if two people showered together?" That didn't need to be spelled out. I swallowed hard, my entire body tingling. Yes. The hotel bathroom. Steam filled the air, stifling, humid, and thick. After the overwhelming embarrassment came a kind of haze, like I was drowning in the air itself. Several times, when my legs nearly gave out, someone caught me just in time. Jordan really lived up to the reputation of someone who hauled cement and reinforced steel every day. His stamina was honestly terrifying. Thankfully, the hotel's hygiene was excellent. Otherwise, there was no way I would have agreed to places like the window ledge. By the time I was wiped clean and laid back on the bed for the second time, I still hadn't caught my breath. My eyes wouldn't even focus properly. When someone slid a hand back under the blanket, I shuddered on instinct. Looking up at my tall, broad-shouldered kept man, I begged softly, "Jordan, I want to sleep." Jordan seemed reluctant to stop, but seeing how pitiful I looked, he didn't continue. He lay down beside me and asked, "All right then, were you satisfied with my service tonight?" I nodded shyly. "Very satisfied. I'll give you a bonus right now." Jordan laughed softly. He leaned in to kiss me and asked in a muffled voice, "How are you this cute? So, how much are you planning to add?" I took out my phone and transferred the money right in front of him. Completely serious. I asked around. The male escorts at the White Horse Club on the next street charge $400 per session, $600 for overnight. You're better than them, so I'm giving you $666. Isn't that a lucky number? Jordan froze. After a long moment, he gritted his teeth and spat out a single word. 6. After that night, I found myself feeling a little less awkward, less socially anxious around Jordan. Still, whenever I faced him, there was an inexplicable nervousness I couldn't quite explain. On the surface, Jordan was just a construction worker who hauled cement for a living, and yet something about him felt different. There was a subtle air of authority about him, the kind I'd only ever seen on wealthy entrepreneurs and financial news reports, but he wasn't the same as them. Those men were polished, distant, untouchable. Jordan had a roguish, casual charm instead. Grounded, rough around the edges, but somehow more real. Less lofty, less pristine. When we checked into the hotel that night, I'd accidentally caught a glimpse of his ID. He was only 22. What a waste. If he hadn't gone straight into the workforce, he would have been a university student by now, probably stressing over internships and exams. It was impossible not to feel a little sympathy for him. And maybe affection. When memories of that night resurfaced, his toned body, the strength in his arms, the heat of his touch, I subconsciously licked my lips. Hiding behind the cafe counter, I pulled out my phone and sent him a message. "Jordan, are you free tonight?" It's been a while." His reply came quickly. "Not free." I frowned slightly. "Then what about just a quick kiss?" "Can't do that either. I'm not at the construction site lately. What kind of kept man was this?" He didn't even bother informing his benefactor about his recent whereabouts. Annoyed, I threw a small silent tantrum and typed back, "Where did you go? Why didn't you tell me?" A moment later, a message popped up. "Out of town. Signing a contract. Attending a meeting." Almost immediately, message retracted, but I'd already seen it. Curiosity got the better of me. A meeting? Signing a contract? What kind of meeting? Since when is the cement industry this high-end? There was a brief pause, then he replied, "Signing contracts is about finding better jobs, more secure ones, so we don't get cheated by shady foremen. The meetings are about how to lay cement more efficiently and how to make more money carrying bricks." Right? I understood. "So when will you be back?" "About a week." "Wait for me." Then another message followed. "And don't you dare keep any other men while I'm gone. When I'm back, I'll ask the security guard at the site whether you've been behaving yourself." I stared at the screen, stunned. It felt oddly like I was being scolded by my kept man. Somehow, the roles had reversed. I scratched my cheek and replied obediently. "Understood." During Jordan's absence, I kept myself busy at the cafe during the day. At night, we exchanged messages. We rarely talked on the phone. My social anxiety made calls unbearable. I never knew what to say, and every second felt painfully awkward. Jordan didn't mind. He indulged me, teasing me gently through text instead. Those days passed in quiet anticipation, and everything seemed to be moving forward, until the day Jordan came back. I was getting ready to close the cafe early, so I could spend the night out with Jordan when an unexpected visitor walked in. My foster father. Seeing that there were no customers, he didn't even bother pretending to be polite. He launched straight into a lecture. "Dylan, why did you stop coming home after we had a few words with you? Did you really need your dad to come all the way here and personally invite you back before Christmas?" He didn't wait for an answer. "We raised you for 24 years. Do you have any idea how much we sacrificed for you?" His tone grew sharper with every sentence. "You've become strange from studying too much. You don't even know how to socialize anymore. We shouldn't have gone soft and let you go to university in the first place." A sneer curled his lips. "We should have arranged your marriage right after high school. It would have saved us money and trouble." My fingers tightened around the counter. I knew exactly what kind of marriage he meant. That man from the village, old, cruel, greedy-eyed. The one who looked at me like I was livestock to be claimed, not a person. The one who had already offered a generous dowry, eager to buy himself a young husband. My foster father had never hidden how tempting that offer was. "That's right," he snapped. "Dylan, say something. Why are you being so rude?" I finally looked up. "I won't be going back." My foster father's face darkened instantly. "Don't be ungrateful," he said coldly. "If you don't come home and get married, how are we supposed to get the dowry? How do you expect your brother to afford his wedding?" So that was it, selling me off to fund his precious son's happiness. "His wedding has nothing to do with me." "What did you say?" "Nothing to do with you," he shouted. "Then who paid for your university?" I replied coldly. "I did. I worked part-time. In all 4 years of university, you gave me a total of £500, which I've already paid back." He froze for a moment, clearly not expecting that. Then he stiffened his neck and barked, "We didn't give you money to teach you independence. Even if we gave you nothing, so what? You can never repay the debt of us raising you all these years." "I'll repay everything gradually," I said flatly. "You can leave now." My expression turned cold as I dismissed him. He flew into a rage. "So you're being disobedient now?" he roared. "Fine. When we get home, I'll lock you in the cellar. Come here." Cursing, he took a big step forward and reached for my arm. I barely had time to panic or dodge, when suddenly he was kicked away. His body crashed into a nearby set of tables and chairs with a loud clatter. "Oi!" a deep voice rang out, sharp with menace. "Didn't you hear?" "Get lost." Jordan's voice, cold, dangerous, intimidating. My foster father was thin and frail. The moment he realized he couldn't overpower Jordan, he shot me a venomous glare before retreating, muttering curses under his breath. Naturally, Jordan responded by flipping him off. As for me, I stood there in a daze, staring at the tall man in front of me. Jordan looked different today. Maybe it was the wind outside. The collar of his windbreaker was turned up, partially hiding the sharp line of his jaw. On his feet were a pair of limited edition sneakers, recognizable at a glance. His style was completely unlike the simple t-shirts and joggers he wore at the construction site. He looked handsome and expensive, refined in a way that didn't quite fit the image I had of him. Who was that middle-aged guy? Jordan turned to look at me, the anger on his face slowly fading. "He's my foster father." "Your foster father?" Jordan frowned. "Does he often give you trouble?" Not wanting to dig up those messy memories, I forced a smile. "It's nothing. He just wanted me to go home for dinner, but I didn't want to." "That's all?" "Yeah, I'll talk to them later. It's just family stuff." I nodded quickly, afraid he'd ask more questions, and hurriedly changed the subject. "Jordan, what's with your clothes?" I hesitated, then continued. I think I've seen that brand of windbreaker online. It costs hundreds, maybe even thousands of pounds. And those shoes look expensive too. I thought you were broke. The arm that had been resting around my waist stiffened. Jordan coughed lightly, his gaze drifting away. Why, yeah. Of course I'm broke, he said. Didn't I tell you? I went out of town for work. There just happened to be a wholesale market nearby, he continued casually. They sell high-quality replicas of designer clothes and bags for really cheap. To avoid getting looked down on by shady contractors and bosses, a bunch of us bought some knockoffs to keep up appearances. He tugged lightly at his sleeve. Look at the quality. It only cost a few quid. I reached out and touched the fabric, half believing him. Really? Yeah. Do they have an online shop? I asked seriously. I'd like to buy one too. I'll send you the link later. Jordan leaned down, cutting off the conversation with a kiss, his voice low and lazy. Forget the clothes. Let me kiss you first. We haven't seen each other for a whole week, he added. I need to take good care of you today. Any lingering doubts were instantly drowned out by the kiss. Jordan, I murmured against his lips. Let's go to my place tonight. That day, I finally worked up the courage to bring him back to my apartment. It was time to save where I could and spend where it mattered. Hotel rooms were getting expensive, and after spending time together, I trusted him more. Jordan wasn't just a pretty face. He had substance. He didn't say much about it, but that night, he pinned me down on the narrow bed in my bedroom and let his desires run free. Thankfully, the neighbors were away for a few days. Otherwise, the creaking of the bed and my muffled cries would have definitely drawn attention. For 2 whole days, we stayed holed up in my apartment. I didn't open the cafe. He didn't go to work. When I asked, his explanation was simple. I just finished a project. No work until next month, when the next one starts. I didn't really understand how his job worked, so I didn't question it. All I knew was that my hands trembled slightly as I reached for my phone to transfer him money. Before I could press confirm, Jordan snatched the phone away. No need, he said casually. All services are on the house. On the house? I stammered, looking at him through damp lashes. He met my gaze and gave me a cryptic smile. Yeah, free. I spent quite a while learning, he added quietly. Just for you. I was taken aback. Then, feeling shy, I hooked my finger around his, where his hand rested casually on the bed. His fingers were long, his knuckles slightly rough. Very masculine. So, I asked softly, are there any other free services? Jordan clicked his tongue, his eyes darkening in an instant. Of course there are. When I finally returned to my cafe, my legs were still weak. Jordan had gone back to the construction site. We'd agreed to have dinner together that evening. Dinner. Such an intimate word. It would be the first time since we met that we were getting together just to eat. Nothing else. I liked that. The thought filled me with quiet anticipation. Lost in my thoughts, I heard the cafe door open. I turned with a smile, unusually eager to greet a customer for once. But my smile froze the moment I saw who it was. This time, my foster parents had come together. My foster mother stepped forward, pointing at me aggressively, spittle flying as she spoke. Dylan, I'm giving you 2 choices, she snapped. 1, come home obediently and get married. That man may be a bit old, but his family is wealthy. Once we take the dowry, you'll have repaid the debt of raising you. And 2, pay back every penny we've ever spent on you. From the day we took you out of the children's home to the day you graduated from university. That's the only way we'll sever ties. Do you understand? I looked at her coldly. I choose option 2. The cafe went quiet. How much in total? I asked. My foster mother's eyes flicked over me, sharp and calculating. 500,000. My heart sank. I'd only been out of university for a year or 2. There was no way I had that kind of money. I know you don't, she continued smugly. But I've done my research. You bought this shop at a bargain price. Once that large shopping center across the street is built, this location will be worth a fortune. 500,000 will be nothing. I couldn't help letting out a hollow laugh. I have to say, you're impressive. You really do have a head for business. My foster mother blinked, then smiled patronizingly. So, she said lightly, transfer the shop to me for free, and we'll call it even. After a long silence, I nodded. Fine. But we'll sign an agreement. Everything in black and white. Legally binding. No problem. She was overjoyed, reaching out to pat my shoulder affectionately. I dodged her touch. I was an orphan. When this couple adopted me from the children's home, I'd naively thought I was the luckiest kid in the world. I was wrong. They were rotten to the core. The man was a hypocrite, the woman a shrew. Their biological son completely useless. They'd adopted me only so my foster father could polish his reputation at work and earn a promotion. At first, they treated me decently. But when my foster father was fired for gambling misconduct, I became a burden. Whenever something went wrong, or whenever I displeased them, I was verbally abused, beaten, or locked in a dark room. That was how my social anxiety began. How I became withdrawn, afraid of people. When I finally noticed my foster father looking at me with something vile in his eyes, I ran away without looking back. Jordan was my attempt at self-redemption. And it worked. Too well. He made me feel alive. Gave me warmth, gave me purpose. But now I'd let myself down. I was about to go bankrupt, with no money left to keep him. After my foster parents left, I stood behind the counter and watched Jordan walking over from the construction site across the road. If only I hadn't started keeping him. Then I wouldn't have fallen so deeply. That evening, I had dinner with Jordan, pretending everything was normal. Halfway through the meal, I said quietly, "Jordan, you don't need to come see me for the next few days." The man who was pouring water for me paused and looked up, his gaze sharp and dangerous. "Dylan," he said coldly, "if you dare keep other men, I swear I'll make sure they walk into your house standing and leave it lying down." That inexplicable sense of intimidation surfaced again. I scratched my head hurriedly. No, it's not that. I just have some family business to deal with. I might not be at the cafe, and I won't have time to see you." "Oh." He leaned back casually. "What kind of business? Your foster family again?" he asked, his voice low. "Are they giving you trouble?" I lowered my eyes, guilt creeping in. "No, just ordinary family matters." "Dylan." Jordan suddenly called my name. His tone was cold. I looked up. He was staring straight at me. "If something's wrong," he said, "you can tell me." "I can help you." I scratched my head awkwardly. Help me? What could he do? Rough someone up? He was just a construction worker. My kept man. I didn't take him seriously. Not then. Over the next few days, I made excuses about being busy and told Jordan not to come see me. Accompanied by my smug foster parents, I went through the procedures to transfer ownership of the cafe. Every piece of equipment, every table and chair, everything was taken away. They claimed it all belonged to them now. I didn't argue. I only quietly calculated how to get back every penny that was rightfully mine. I might have social anxiety, but I'm not a pushover. After everything at the shop was settled, I called Jordan to my apartment. I wanted him to stay with me one last time, before setting him free. Jordan arrived quickly. Having been out of work recently, he looked especially clean and neat, dressed like a proper gentleman. There was none of the dust or exhaustion he usually carried from the construction site. I didn't say much. Summoning my courage, I leaned into him and looked up with pleading eyes. "Jordan, can you stay a little longer tonight?" The stern look on his face softened slightly. "When have I ever not stayed?" he grunted. Then he wrapped me in kisses and embraces, lifting me up playfully. That night, we were inseparable. Afterward, Jordan stood by the window, smoking his after cigarette, careful to keep the smoke away from me. He was wearing nothing but a pair of boxers. His well-built body was marked with faint traces I'd left behind. I watched him for a long moment before finally calling out, reluctant. "Jordan, I need to talk to you about something. Come here for a second." He turned around, his expression relaxed and teasing. "You were crying earlier, and now you want more." My face burned. "No," I said hurriedly. "It's something serious." "All right." He stubbed out the cigarette, brushed his teeth to get rid of the smell, and walked over to sit beside me. "What's so serious?" I let out a breath. Then I took out my phone and transferred money to him right in front of his eyes. It wasn't a fortune, but it wasn't a small amount either. "This money is for you," I said quietly. "You don't need to come anymore after this. I'm setting you free." The faint amusement on Jordan's face vanished instantly. "Dylan," he said darkly, "what do you mean?" "I mean, you don't have to be my kept man anymore. I won't be supporting you financially. Give me a reason." I sighed again. "There's no other choice. I'm bankrupt." "What about the cafe?" "It belongs to someone else now." I swallowed. "This is all the money I have left. I'm giving it all to you. At least you won't have to work so hard anymore." I looked at him apologetically. But to my surprise, Jordan let out a breath, as if relieved. "Is that all?" he asked. Then he turned, rummaged through the clothes he'd carelessly tossed on the floor, and pulled out his wallet. He opened it and took out a black card. Casually, he handed it to me. "Take this. Keep supporting me," he said calmly. "Who said you could set me free?" I stared at the card, the Centurion Black card. I knew exactly what kind of people could own something like that. I was stunned. Looking from the card to the tall, broad-shouldered man standing in front of me, I frowned. "Do you have other benefactors?" I asked cautiously. "Won't they be upset if they find out you gave this to me?" Jordan let out a sound that was almost a laugh. "Keep it. I'll earn money from other benefactors to support you instead." Then he added firmly, "No arguing. Go to sleep. Tomorrow, use the card to buy whatever you want. Even a plane if you feel like it. Just don't keep other men," he said lightly, "and do whatever makes you happy." Jordan ruffled my hair, wrapped an arm around my waist, turned off the lights, and pulled me close. I had 1,000 questions, but none of them made it past my lips. My heart felt both sweet and unbearably heavy. Sweet, because I could still be with him. Heavy, because I finally realized just how much Jordan was giving up for me. When I woke up the next morning, Jordan was already gone. He'd left early for some kind of business. Before leaving, he'd sent me a short, puzzling message. "Stay home and rest for a few days. Everything will be fine." Thinking he was referring to certain matters, I nodded at my phone with a faintly red face. I had no idea what he really meant. A few days later, however, I heard some shocking news. My foster family had run into serious trouble. Apparently, my foster brother had picked up the same filthy habit as his father and accumulated an enormous gambling debt. For the sake of their precious only son, my foster parents sold everything they had, their house, their car, and even the cafe they'd snatched from me not long ago. In the end, the shop was acquired by a mysterious buyer at an absurdly low price. After scrambling through countless transactions, they finally managed to gather enough money to pay off the debt and save their son. With nothing left to their name, they thought of me again. But things started going strangely wrong. When my foster brother tried to come find me, he somehow broke his leg on the way. When my foster father came looking for me, he mysteriously broke his arm. And when my foster mother rushed over, she discovered, midway, that my foster father, arm still in a cast, was trying to book a hotel room with another woman. It was utter chaos, a complete mess. Later, a fortune teller visited them and declared that my birth chart clashed with their family's fate. To stay safe, they were told they had to keep their distance from me. Everything bad that had happened lately, the fortune teller claimed, was because of me. Terrified, my foster parents hurriedly took their son back to their hometown, desperate to avoid me, the so-called harbinger of misfortune. But poverty makes people believe anything. Listening to the nonsense of their fellow villagers, they decided to go to northern Myanmar to try their luck and make a fortune. They lost contact the very day they arrived. I was left in a daze, not even given the chance to interfere. I was still trying to process everything when Jordan suddenly handed me a folder. Inside was the property deed for the cafe. My name was clearly printed on it. I looked up at him, stunned. "Take it," he said calmly. "From now on, just focus on running the cafe and making money." Then, with a lazy smile, he added, "And keep me as your kept man." I was still in shock. The man standing in front of me was clearly Jordan, and yet somehow he felt completely unfamiliar. "So, you were the one who helped me." I looked at Jordan, still feeling unreal. He raised an eyebrow and laughed lightly. "Touched already? It's hard to find a kept man as good as me in this world, you know?" He opened his arms. "Come here. Give me a kiss first." I didn't move. "You're not really a construction worker, are you?" I asked quietly. Jordan coughed once, clearly caught. "Well," he said, "I went to the construction site yesterday looking for you," I continued. "I asked a random worker where you were, and he said, 'Young Mr. Wilson hasn't been on site for a couple of days.'" I looked straight at him. "Young Mr. Wilson? That's you, isn't it?" And I checked. The shopping center across the street is owned by a well-known entrepreneur with the surname Wilson. Judging by his age, that should be your father. Jordan hesitated for a split second, then gently reached out and touched my hand. When he saw that I didn't pull away, he immediately drew me into his arms. He kissed me slowly, deeply, nuzzling against my neck as if he'd been holding back for far too long. The attraction between us was overwhelming, impossible to resist. "Yes," he admitted softly. "That's me. My parents thought I was getting in their way at home," he continued, his voice low and close to my ear. "So they sent me to work at the family's construction site for a month or two to stay out of their lovey-dovey time. At first I didn't tell you who I was," he said with a small laugh. "You looked so cute, insisting on keeping me. Later, I just didn't know how to tell you." I was afraid that if you knew the truth, you wouldn't want me anymore. He pulled back slightly and looked at me, his gaze warm. By the way, Dylan, you've become braver. You talk more now, even with strangers. Keep it up. My eyes felt hot from his kisses, my voice soft and unsteady. Then, why did you agree to be my kept man in the first place? I asked. Didn't it feel insulting? Insulting? He scoffed. My ass. Then he paused. There's something else I haven't told you yet. What is it? I asked. Jordan stopped kissing my lips and instead pressed a gentle kiss to my forehead. A kiss of cherishing. I liked you, he said quietly. From the very first moment I passed by your cafe on my way to the construction site. I liked you a lot, but you looked timid, fragile. I was afraid that if I approached you too directly, I'd scare you away. I stared into his eyes at close range, my heart pounding wildly. Then, I'm very lucky. Jordan hugged me tightly and said solemnly, You've always been lucky, and you'll be even luckier from now on. The next day, Jordan took the initiative to introduce me to his parents. They were the kindest elders I'd ever met. Despite their wealth, they were gentle, warm, and sincere. The moment they saw me, they gave Jordan a playful kick. Because the night before, caught up in passion, he'd bitten my neck. The marks were still very visible. They thought I'd been bullied and immediately vowed to stand up for me. In the end, I had Jordan. And I finally had a family.